Welcome. This is our Afterthoughts segment where we keep our guests around from our broadcast show for a little additional conversation and hopefully some more candid discussion about the issues. Today we are at the Fishermen's Forum at the Samoset Resort in Rockport. And with us on this segment, we have Clint Goodenow of the Maine Clammers Association, Dana Temple, Chair of the Maine Scallop Advisory Council, and Gary Libby, ground fisherman from Port Clyde. So great. Thanks for sticking around. We want to have some more discussion about it. Gary, I want to come back to you on the ground fishing, the changes in moving from the days at sea model to the poundage, to the sector, but poundage model, I think, really is the difference. One of the reasons for that was about preservation issues for the stock and limiting bycatch. Has that had an impact on you and then what other fishermen are doing?
Yeah, well, personally myself, we've done some things to our nets, changed mesh sizes and things like that to eliminate bycatch. I towed a 7-inch square cod in for a while, which is bigger than the legal limit last year, to try to reduce some of my bycatch, because on a quota system like we are in right now, we have to count all of our discards along with what we bring to shore. So the more we leave in the water, the least impact we have on our quota. Right. So I like to sell what I catch. So that was my reasoning behind using that larger mesh and taking those risks. So that it's like a balancing act.
Yeah, and that looks like the balance between. Yeah. I mean, you were saying in a broadcast segment about there have been some people with this new sector model that have been winners and some been losers. My guess is that bycatch was a moneymaker too for some in the past. Yeah. But you have to be able to trade that off. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to trade it off. You got to think about it. You think about everything that you land on the deck of your boat counts against you. And because we're heavily regulated through the National Marine Fisheries Service with observers on most all of our trips. Yeah. A lot of reporting, a lot of work that people don't understand really. Right. It's hard. Yeah. But I think after this first year, I actually think that some of us have done better fishing under the system. Okay. And I mean, obviously some have done worse, and some have gone out of business. Okay. So it's really a double-edged sword, but if it brings the stocks back, I think we're going to be better off.
I want to ask a follow-up question with you, and then have all of you jump in on this one too, just about, I mean, obviously we're coming out of a recession. At least some people think we're still in the recession, some people think we're coming out, but anyway, it's been a tough time, tough few years on all the economy. How many folks have you seen leave the industry that you're in because of because of the recession? Have most of them been able to weather it and then stick it out and now are coming back, or did we lose a lot? In ground fishing, let's start with that and then we'll go to the other.
In ground fishing, we've lost people. We really haven't gained people back yet because our fish stocks are just starting to rebound. And with this new system and the unknown for folks, they really don't know how the system works, a lot of them.
So who left? Were they new folks in the industry, or were the older ones that were saying, look, now it's time for me to get out? Or
more older ones. Okay. It's time for me to get out. I don't understand. I got to move on. I've had enough. That sort of thinking. And then just a few of us diehards stay in. A lot of us guys in Port Clyde, the guys never did anything but fish. Yeah. So, and with limited opportunities, you can't move from one fishery to another as easy anymore. Right. They just tough it out. They say, what do I have to do now to make a living?
Yeah, okay. That's a typical Maine answer, I think. You tough it out and figure it out. How about in the scalloping? Same thing. How did the recession hit you?
The recession hasn't had a dramatic effect on the number of people in and out of the fishery. It's a question of, I think in many ways, just like the ground fishing industry, the resource just wasn't there to catch. Yeah. That's what's going to drive people out. When they go out on their boats and they can only get a handful of scallops and it doesn't pay to rig up or spend the time or the fuel to do it, that's going to drive more people out of the industry than anything else. You still have people paying for licenses. They're all, I think, looking for the future, which is why we have 800 licenses and only a couple hundred fishermen. Right. But I think it's more a function, I mean, with the recession or not, scallop prices have been strong, markets have been very, very strong. Yeah. It's just a question, they can catch enough product to make it worthwhile for them. And we're trying to, that's what we're trying to do something about here with the Scallop Advisory Council.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back with that. Clamming, how about that?
Yeah, a lot of people have probably left in the last few years, not because of the recession directly, but more so because of budget cuts and DMR's ability to monitor flats and keep them open.
Oh, really?
So there's been a lot of closures, and when the flats close, because then there's no product for people to get, and that's when they leave the industry.
So I just leaned in. That's interesting to me. So the impact of kind of cutting some staffing positions at DMR means they can't be as responsive as quickly in terms of those closures
Right,
and
well,
getting them back open if they're ready to be open.
Yeah, it takes them longer now to monitor an area to see if it's fit to be open.
Really?
And yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
I think it goes through all the industries. It's,
Really?
You know, when you have budget cuts and things like that because of rough times in the state economies, we all have it cuts some of our jobs. You narrow up the tax base, people aren't working as much, makes it tougher all the way around.
Right. Well, while we're on kind of that issue of kind of government, the impact, what's your assessment of, we got a new administration, how do you think that's going to be for your industry, and we got a new Norm Olson, the new commissioner of DMR. What do you think? We'll start down here.
It's early to be able to know exactly what the new administration is going to do. I mean, Governor LePage, from what I understand, wants to put people to work, get this, reduce regulation, try to make it less complex for people in these industries here that have supported the coast of Maine to be able to function and to live and to make a living.
At the bottom of it all, you're all small businesses anyhow, so you have the same issues that every small business does. Stop hammering us with the regulations. Okay.
That's what he's going to try to do, and I'm sure that means putting people back to work. I don't know if it means that he'll open up fisheries and maybe let the fisheries take more of a beating than they should. I don't know. Okay. That's the real question that I have.
That is the question, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, what do you guys think about the administration?
Oh, well, I've met Norm before.
Yeah?
And we just went through a whole round in the shrimp fishery with Sean in our season and stuff, and he really worked hard at trying to keep us going as long as he could, and we appreciated that. And I think he looks a lot towards marketing. This administration really wants to try to market the product in Maine, keep the jobs in Maine. I think that's all part of the grand plans, especially if you're in the fisheries.
And figuring out how to do that added value, more production right here in the state.
Keeping it here.
Sustainability.
Yeah, how about clamming too? What do you guys think about the administration?
Like it was said, it's still early, and we've met with
They're
Norm.
talking the talk, but
it's going to take a little while to see what happens, but we have our fingers crossed, and we're hopeful that we're all headed in the right direction.
I like what I hear, but there's a balance between the absolute needs of the resource and what the market, what the infrastructure can handle. I mean, I'm not in favor of keeping a resource open beyond the point that it remains sustainable. I mean, that sort of kills the whole thing for the years that go on.
Yeah, I mean, look at the groundfishing. They're the living example of that too. It's like, sucked every fish out. Now we're had to figure out how to manage it, and they are. But you got to make compromises, changes. There are some winners and losers.
There's a balance.
And your business model has to be so much more specific and just fine-tuned.
Yeah.
It's a lot like we've done in Port Clyde. We market our own fish. We have our own processing facility, direct marketing more. We're cutting out some of the middlemen.
And that's through your own co-op, right?
Yep. We have our own co-op, and we market our own products. And getting them out through the CSF model and restaurant, and just getting it to the public, fresh fish. And a lot of folks are just surprised that it tastes so much better than stuff that you can get.
Fishermen and foodies are a good marriage,
It's the same with all of us. We all got a great product and should be promoted.
And you guys are promoting. And how about marketing? We want to talk about marketing.
I think marketing as well. I mean, as long as the resource is there, you're capable of marketing it. I mean, Maine in the scallop resource is harvesting one of the best scallops that the market has always found was attractive. I mean,
who says so? Who says it's the best?
It's accepted. In terms of if you compare it to other imports.
We were having that discussion before we taped, and we were saying, it's like the Idaho potato. They just captured it. They said, no, the Idaho potato is the best. I don't know, nobody's actually did any testing. You can't verify it, but they've captured that market. And it looks like the scallops could do that too. And
I think all shellfish.
They've done it with lobsters already. Maine lobster has a name. It's called their Maine lobsters. I mean, Maine scallops could do the same. Possibly Maine clams.
Maine brand. We need the Maine brand.
The Maine brand.
What do you guys think about that national seafood marketing initiative, the legislation that may be out there, where they're charging through tariffs and duties on imported seafood? Part of that money would come back to the New England region in particular for marketing specifically.
I think it's a good idea. I've always been in favor of that, tariff in the imports, and getting the money back into places, you know, the local businesses and stuff, and helping them survive.
Would you be able to match some of that marketing money? Would you able, that's the thing that seems to be missing is in the individual fisherman's business plan, that marketing line, if there is one, it's the first thing that goes away. You know.
It's really tough to get that, but you know, as the stocks rebound and we rebuild our resource back, I think we have a real good chance of trying to fill those voids.
Okay.
One thing that's been for me has been very encouraging is across the board, as Glenn is talking about with the organizations that they get together for sharing catch and the organizations that they have for clam diggers, the scallop fishermen as well. People are working together much more than they ever have in the past. There's a much more vested interest on the part of fishermen in general in the state of Maine to try to improve the situation. You know, even 3 or 4 years ago, they were an independent group that didn't want to hear it. Now you're starting to get people to work together and talk together and try to make this thing better for everybody.
Is that the next piece then, so that ground fishermen are working more with the shellfish versus the...
That's tough because we really are so much different. I mean, you think it's all seafood and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think you compete. It all goes together.
No.
It's different regulations, different departments, and
maybe at the marketing level, that's where
marketing would be.
Yeah,
yes.
Marketing would be fine. I'd be fine with either one of these guys because I've scalloped and I've clammed.
Yeah.
Well, it's like ground fish and I shrimp and I lobster. So
he's a Renaissance man.
I do everything.
Yeah, good.
Whatever, anything that I can make $1 at, I'll try it.
So what's the last question then, what's the likelihood of that kind of being able to really brand? Obviously Maine lobsters are branded and they work 100% of their time just keeping that brand. What's the likelihood of being able to really brand the rest of us and using the Maine name along with that too? Is it going to have value?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And a perfect example, I mean, you know, the Maine name carries a lot of weight.
Yes,
a buyer on the West
Yeah.
Coast will say, you offer him scallops and he says, oh, I'm already buying Maine day boats and it's July. I mean, unless somebody found a way to keep the scallops fresh for 3.5 months, that's not going to happen. I mean, obviously it carries weight. So
there's an indicator there.
Yes,
that people,
it's an indicator that
Maine
people associate
resonates
the name
with that.
Maine. Yes.
All the fisheries.
Yes, it does.
You have to be careful with that too because you do run into that. We've found that in our processing with marketing. That's why we're branded, and we needed to do that because someone in a restaurant or something will buy one fish off us one time and then say we buy this product. You know, well, they did once, but you got to be careful because people will use your name if it's a good name like the Maine brand.
Yep, got to be out there and police it too. All right, we're going to have to wrap it there. Thank you. This is, I think, I actually know a little bit more than I did before. That's a good thing because I knew very little. So
yeah, well,
thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you all.